I wanted to ask about some of the, ability of swimmers to swim unique doubles at this point in time, especially Kate Douglas. She has that one night where there's a 100 free final and a 200 breast semifinal, assuming she makes both. What is your strategy when you sort of help her plan for those doubles? And also just the idea that someone could swim those two events is probably not generally something that we conceive of when putting together, or people conceive of when putting together Olympic schedules. So just wondering sort of the unique skill sets kind of creating those unique doubles.
Yeah, I think Kate's just, a unique individual when it comes to the versatility that she has. And certainly a lot of people have a good bit of versatility, but to be as elite as she is at multiple events like that is pretty impressive. And we don't necessarily, I think it's more mental preparation than it is physical preparation. She trains for all those events, but we don't necessarily throw a freestyle and a breaststroke practice together. She's done those doubles, the 100 free and 200 breaststroke now. I think she did it at Worlds in Doha in February. She did it last year at Worlds. She did it at trials. So now it's just becoming kind of second nature. She's gained a lot of confidence with it and her ability to do it at a high level. So I think it's really more a mental preparation than it is, physical at this point. Physically, she's capable of doing it, but she just has to be confident in her ability. And I think that the experiences she's had the last couple of years doing that has lent itself to her being successful. But also the NCAA season it's a lot about that as well. The 200 breaststroke and the 100 free are, the 200 breaststroke and the 100 free, but also the 400 free relay are on the same day at NCAA. So oftentimes she has to go off the 200 breast and do 100 free on a relay. So, being able to do 10 races in 3.5 days at NCAA's is conducive to helping that type of situation as well. It's unfortunate that those events are lined up and back to back like that. Maybe in 2028 or sooner that'll get changed up. But for now it is what it is, and she handles it pretty well.
Christine Brennan. Oh, hey, Christine. Go ahead with Coach.
Well, thank you. Thanks. Good to see you. Good to see everyone. Hi, Coach. Todd, as you know, you're taking a team of great athletes and with great promise into what is, of course, the Super Bowl, right? It is just a pressure cooker, the expectations, the questions. It won't even be us. It'll be the Australians and everyone else, and the French and all the media and all the attention and everything that comes with it. How do you help your athletes handle that? You've got a couple veterans like Katie Ledecky. She's done it a lot. Reagan Smith has done it. You've got people who've gone into a couple Olympics. You've also got some newcomers. How do you prepare them for the next few weeks in what will be obviously the biggest fishbowl they'll ever swim in? Thank you.
Yeah, I think that the athletes that I've worked with in the past, and I think most of the U.S. team is pretty good at just drowning out any external noise. Some athletes, if they comment on it or they want to talk about it, can handle that type of thing and do a good job of that. But I think these athletes have been at such a high level for such a long time, and they've been in different types of situations, whether it be as an NCAA, caliber athlete or, a professional athlete. They've been asked a lot of questions and they've been put in these situations before. And, at the end of the day, you can't, we try to focus on the things that we can control, and you can't control anything that's going on in the outside. So, over the next 6 weeks, we just try to build a great bond with the team and get them excited to race, at the highest level. And I also think that the U.S. Olympic trials prepares our athletes better than any country, for the Olympics, because I would say that the Olympics is the Super Bowl, but getting to the Super Bowl is more difficult than winning the Super Bowl. And so, I think they're just prepared for that. They're used to not thinking about what's going on around them, staying in their own lane. We talk about that quite often, no pun intended, and just focus on yourself and the things that you can control.
Coleman, go right ahead.
Hey, Todd.
Hey, Coleman.
So I'm wondering if you could just shed some light onto you and Anthony's process of choosing your coaching staff and assistants, and what you were looking for there, and how that process works, especially throughout, I don't know, if it's throughout the week of Olympic trials, or if you just sit down at the end and say, okay, now the team's pretty much come together. This is what we're looking for in terms of the coaching staff, and then also just kind of how you have used this weekend and the time kind of leading up to camp to prepare both those coaches and the athletes in terms of just how you're communicating with them and how you want to be prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. So Anthony and I have been talking for 3 years about being in this position and creating a coaching staff that would create a great environment. He and I were on the staff in Tokyo as assistant coaches, and not that we were necessarily thinking back then that we would be head coaches, but it was kind of like, hey, if we're ever we roomed together, and we were like, hey, if we're ever head coaches, let's do this or let's do that, just kind of joking around and passing time. And then, when we were head coaches together in 22 for Worlds, we had a lot more of those conversations. So we've been talking about it along with USA Swimming for quite some time. And, for us, it's been a lot more about staff dynamics than anything. Trying to create a staff that's just going to create a great environment for the athletes to thrive in, to have a good time in, to work hard in, and to help, build a bond. So, I think, it might not have been the most traditional way of picking a coaching staff, but, we had it in our mind, a list of coaches that, assuming, they put an athlete or two on the Olympic team, then these are the people that we would want to go with. And, it's people that we trust, people that work really well with others, and can work well with a lot of different athletes and a lot of different personalities, coaches that can manage different athletes. It's a little bit more about managing than it is coaching. At this point, at this level, a lot of these athletes coach themselves. They're their own best coaches. They can handle themselves, and our goal is to just, help, provide whatever they need to be successful. And, I think the coaching staff that we have is just a great staff that, we've worked with quite a few of them in the past at the last few Worlds. We get along really great, and I think that the staff dynamic is just going to create a great environment for the team to, again, have a good time and enjoy themselves, because as we mentioned earlier, it's the biggest stage for our sport. It's the pinnacle of our sport, and there's going to be a lot of pressure and there's going to be a lot of stress, but we want to try to relieve a little bit of that by having providing an environment for them where they're enjoying themselves, taking a little pressure off of them, and just setting themselves up to be as successful as possible. And then this past week, we had a meeting with the coaching staff on Monday morning before we in Indy before we left trials. Gosh, it seems like that was a week ago already. And then we've had a couple of meetings over the course of the week over Zoom, just preparing, and just kind of getting everybody ready, and mostly more about how we envision all the staff's their roles throughout the course of the training camp, throughout the course of the Olympics, which athletes they might be managing and working with the most, and just kind of giving them a lay of the land of, the processes that we want and the dynamic that we want, and the culture that we want from the coaching staff, and how that will roll over into the team.
Hey, Connor Real, WVEC in Hampton Roads. Thanks for doing this, Coach. Obviously, a lot of UVA swimmers having a lot of success at the trials, participating in the Olympics. With your experience now as a head coach this cycle, as an assistant coach beforehand, I'm wondering, is there anything that you've translated to your coaching at Virginia that has maybe helped prepare them a little extra for these types of world-class events?
I don't know. I think that just an overall focus on success at the international level, and putting more and more of an emphasis on that throughout the course of a season and throughout the course of the last couple of years is mostly what we've done just to prepare them to get to this point. Again, I think that the Olympic trials themselves probably prepare them the most for what's going to occur at the Olympics. The venue at trials was significantly bigger. The crowd at trials is probably going to be significantly bigger. I do think the pressure at trials is bigger. It's a different type of pressure when you go to the Olympics, but I think it's more intense at trials. So I think the trials itself is what prepares them the best for the actual Olympics. But obviously, we spent the last year or more preparing to get themselves to this level, and really just putting an emphasis on, here are the things that you need to work on over the course of this year to put yourself in the best possible position to, one, make the U.S. Olympic team, but beyond that, more importantly, medal at the Olympics. I really try to not have the athletes think about it too much. So, I just ask them to, work hard, try to meet our expectations, listen to the adjustments that we're giving them and try to make those adjustments, and then let us worry about what they need to do to make the U.S. Olympic team, and let them just work hard, have fun, enjoy the NCAA season, but knowing that since September 1st last year, we've put in place a training program and technical aspects for them to focus on to get better, and those things will help them in the NCAA season, but also more importantly the long course season.
And last question for me, there's so much that comes with the Olympics besides the actual competition. What's your message to the team in terms of everything else besides the swimming that comes to this experience?
Yeah, I think that, the message that I would give them is to try to enjoy it. Some people may go to multiple Olympics, like some of the team members that we have, and Katie Ledecky's been to a number of them, Simone Manuel, and some, this is their first ever Olympics, and for some, this might be the only one they ever make. I think that they really, I want to try to impress upon them, and even myself and our coaching staff as well, is to really enjoy it and embrace it and soak it all in, and remember, a little bit, try to be a little bit like your 10-year-old self that you dreamt of being at the Olympics. Even as a coach, at some point, I think every coach, the ultimate goal is to be on the Olympic team coaching staff, but I'm going to try to, really impress upon them to just go back to when they were 10 and 12 and 8 years old or whatever, whenever they started swimming and they were dreaming about the Olympics, and now that dream has come true. It's an amazing accomplishment. I think that they're so locked in on continuing to perform at a high level at the Olympics that they may miss, that kind of side of things. And I think that thinking about it that way will also take a little bit of pressure off, not necessarily being content with having made the Olympic team, because certainly the goal is to go there and perform at a high level, but just, to take a step back and really look at, what it took to get there, but also the dream that they had as a young person, that now has come to a realization. It's pretty special.
Hey, David Reeder from Swimming World. Obviously, you guys swam really well. The U.S. team swam really well at trials, in position for a lot of medals. But there aren't a whole lot of locks for gold. Maybe not any outside of Ledecky and some of those longer freestyles. What changes do you guys need to make during training camp as a whole staff, women and men, technique, race strategy, mental prep, whatever, to really reach that high threshold of gold medals that we've come to expect and that Australia had last year?
Yeah, I think that every athlete and every coach just has to look at the races from trials and pick it apart a little bit and look at what can be better. And for everybody that's very different. I do think that the U.S. Historically has done a good job of taking a step forward from trials to the Olympics. Again, I think the NCAA season there's a benefit to having the NCAA season, because we go from a conference championship meet where you want to perform at a high level and then be even better at NCAAs, and a lot of coaches in the country have perfected that. And I also look at it. We've been preparing for trials for months and months and months. For some people, years. And now you only have 5 or 6 weeks to prepare for the Olympics. But I think it's a great condensed, amount of time where you can really focus on training at an even higher level than you did leading into the trials. And if you're able to do that, then you'll be able to be better, at the Olympics. And I think that saying that somebody's a lock or not a lock is, I think that not necessarily a great way to be, because everybody's got to go there and perform. whether it's the U.S. I mean, we have to go there and perform at a high level, and every other country that's there. And historically, the U.S. has done the best job of any country in the world of being better and performing at a high level. Certainly, there's some events and for both genders where we've got a significant amount of ground to make up. But I'm confident in the motivation and excitement and commitment of everybody, men and women on the team, that are prepared to do that and do some pretty special things. I think there's a lot of examples over the years. Lezak's comeback, things like that, where the U.S. women beating the Germans in the 4x100 free relay way back, where we weren't supposed to win. And the U.S. finds a way to do that.
Janie McCauley, are you there? Go ahead.
Hi, Todd. Hi, Tim. Thanks for doing this, Todd. Nice to see you. I've been lucky out here in the Bay Area to be around Dave Durden and Greg Meehan a little bit and learn. And they've taken me through some of the challenges that all of you faced, at the last Olympics with everything that you went through to get to that one. Did you guys learn things going through a COVID stretch that you can still apply today? And also just the glimpse that we saw of the fans at trials, and can you imagine how special it's going to be with people back in the building cheering on swimming as well?
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. It's funny because the Tokyo Olympics was my first Olympics, on a staff, and Jack Bowerly and Gray Troy and Bob Bowman, and they were all like, "Oh, this is terrible that this is your first experience, going to the Olympics, because there's not going to be any spectators and it's just not going to be the same." And I was kind of like, "Well, it's my only one. I don't have anything to compare it to, so I'm excited to go into it." But I can definitely say emphatically, I'm excited to have. I mean, that was an interesting thing. I think that not having fans in the stands, you had to create an environment where the athletes were, to help them get excited, to get, help them get, motivated. And I do think that, if you can't get motivated with the opportunity to win an Olympic medal, then I don't know what would, motivate you. But the fans and the spectators certainly help. And I think that, being in an environment where we as a coaching staff had to create that excitement for them and create that, I think that probably the cowbells were probably rang, louder there at that Olympics than ever before because of that, and that might be part of why there's a little bit of, trash talking going on back and forth about that, because it was really loud in 21, and probably since then it has been. But I think that trying to create that type of environment has really allowed, with Anthony and I and the staff that we have to, just carry on that and help our team get motivated and excited, in addition to having the crowd. So I think that if we can do that as a staff, that's just going to add to, it'll just add value to the environment for the team, in addition to the crowd.
And what kinds of things did you come up with that worked, and how did you guys, what was that process like, and maybe can you still apply some of that today when there are fans in the seats?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know that it was anything in specific or in particular that we really set out to do or tried to do. I think it was just the the personalities of the coaches, and just like I said, trying to have a good time, trying to get them to smile, being really loud with the cowbells when they're walking off, because they walk off from the team section and we couldn't go with them or we couldn't be around them, and so the last thing they hear is that they hear the cowbells, they hear our team, and all the staff cheering for them as they're walking off, and you just try to allow that. You want that, the last thing they hear before they step out on the blocks, you want it to be a positive excitement, and so I think that's kind of the main emphasis, and we can certainly take that into. I've got to believe the cowbells will be even louder this go around.
All right,
Thank you.
I've got David Teal's question. He asked, when you interviewed with Craig Littlepage, John Oliver, did the vision he presented, Todd, for UVA swimming in any way resemble what has emerged with national championships and Olympians? The
vision that Littlepage, yes. I don't want to say I knew we would be where we are today, but I would definitely say that I knew that the University of Virginia had the potential to be where we are at today. I think that I didn't have a doubt. I was confident that we could get to this point. I just didn't know how quickly we could do it. It's been significantly faster. But I knew coming in that the university itself was a place, is an academic institution that can attract the best and the brightest student athletes. And I don't have a problem saying that to me, it's a lot like Cal Berkeley. Cal Berkeley has been producing Olympians, national champions, for a long, long time. And the University of Virginia, in my mind, at that time, reminded me of an East Coast version of Cal Berkeley. And so why not? Why couldn't UVA do those same things? And I felt confident that we had that ability to do it. I think we've been fortunate. Maybe we've had some luck. I don't know. Obviously, you've got to get talent. It's probably now 6 years ago that Kate Douglas committed here, along with her class, and Ella Nelson, Maddie Donahoe, Lexi Cuomo in that class, and they really kind of took our program. That's where it kind of started, and they took a little bit of a leap of faith. I think Alex Walsh the next year took a little bit of a leap of faith. We hadn't really done anything to that point. Paige Madden was already here, had already committed. She was a freshman my first year as a coach. I think it was a little bit of a perfect storm, but I certainly believed that we could be doing these things. I don't know that anybody in the country would have believed that we would have won 4 in a row, 6 or 7 years ago.
Hi, Coach. Cary Bruno for CBS 19. I was just wondering, you have the two sisters, Gretchen and Alex, that you coach at UVA, and then now getting to coach them in the Olympics. So can you kind of talk on how cool that is for the both of them to be able to do that together after growing up together in college together and now doing this, if you've had the chance to kind of talk to them about it, and just kind of how this whole experience is for them and you getting to be a part of that as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I don't necessarily think of it as much, as sisters. They're just two, great people and great individuals, and I'm honored to have the opportunity to coach them, even if they weren't sisters and even if they weren't both here. They're very different, but very special and unique in their own ways, and they're both really, great to be around. I think for them, it's very special. I think to do anything at a really high level or accomplish anything like this, as sisters is probably the most amazing thing that could ever happen to them. And I say that because I know how devastated Alex was when she made it for Tokyo and Gretchen didn't. I think she was more upset that she didn't get to go with her sister than she was happy that she was going. And so now, 3 years later, to be able to go again and both of them accomplish it and be able to go together. I think that I think it's the greatest thing, to them. I think it's the greatest thing that could ever happen in sports, for them together at the same time. They've been on relays together where they've won national championships and set NCAA records. But this is entirely different. I know that when Gretchen made it, Alex was, ecstatic. And I think for the two of them, and again, I don't necessarily want to speak for them, but I think if you ask them, they'd probably say the same thing, that, it's the most special thing, and bond that they can do together as athletes. And it is for any athlete, right? The most special thing is to make the Olympic team. So to be able to do that, one, with a teammate, two, with your sister, it's not only is it impressive, but it's really special.
Hi, Todd. Sean Martinelli from USA Today. Before the Tokyo Olympics, UVA had no more than 2 swimmers on Team USA's Olympic team. And then obviously there were 4 in Tokyo, and for Paris, you have 6 current, former, or future UVA swimmers. How would you describe the culture of UVA swimming that led to this point, and what does it say about where the program is headed in terms of producing Olympians with these kind of numbers?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest goal. We want to be able to do that every year, whether it's a World Championships or it's an Olympics. And we want to build on Tokyo and Paris and into LA, and the hope is, and the goal is, to have even more qualifiers when we go to LA. I think that it's just it's a culture that's just kind of developed and built, over the last couple of years, where you have some athletes that are talented enough that have the potential, that they can actually, qualify for the Olympics, and then also have the commitment and the dedication to do that, because you have to have both. But it's just, I think, ultimately they just, I think when young recruits come here, like Emma Weber, for example, she's been here 2 years, and now that she's been around it and in it, they want a part of it, and they want to be a part of it. And that excitement just leads to more commitment and more dedication, and because it takes a lot. Like you have to sacrifice quite a bit just to be a Division I athlete. You have to sacrifice a lot to be a Division I swimmer, especially. You've got to sacrifice a lot, and then to put yourself in a position to contend for an Olympic spot, there's not much you're not sacrificing at that point. So, but that, that's the culture, and again, and that's the goal. We put the biggest emphasis on that every year, and the hope is to kind of continue that trend. And like I said, try to, put even more people on the team in LA in 4 more years.
Thank you.
Nicole Auerbach, I think you're up next.
Hey Todd, good to see you. Congrats on everything at trials. This might be a dumb question, but I don't know if Katie officially said it definitively. She said she was probably not going to do the 200 free as an individual event. Have you guys officially ruled that out, or what other dominoes would fall if she doesn't do that individually?
Well, if she doesn't do it, it'll go down to the next person, which would be Paige Madden, and then from there, depending on if she wanted to do it or not, it would go on to the next person. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm at liberty to say. To be completely honest with you, I do know, but I don't want to speak on behalf of USA Swimming. So that, I assume, the information will be out there pretty soon.
Things for somebody her size and her athleticism, kind of how rare that might be, and how much it maybe helps her, especially with the underwater portion of the races.
Yeah, flexibility certainly helps anybody. The more flexible, the better. We actually spend a decent amount of time working flexibility and mobility, especially in hips, knees, and ankles, and that in turn helps their underwater dolphin kicking specifically. So, but she's just naturally that way. I don't know that any of that is necessarily been taught to her, at least from our perspective. We're just trying to enhance, her strengths and also make her weaknesses better. But yeah, especially from an underwater dolphin kicking perspective, it's uncanny how flexible she is. And her upper body, her shoulders and her arms are really flexible too. So, and I think you can see that in her butterfly. But that type of thing certainly helps. I'd have to believe that Michael Phelps was probably that way as well. But yeah, it's just her natural, God-given, body, and use it the best she possibly can.
It's really all about the pre-swim handshake with Todd and Gretchen. Let's see, who else do we have here? Rick, I'm going to probably butcher this. Rick Mays?
Yeah, Rick Mays with the Washington Post. Thanks for doing this, Todd.
Yep.
I have 2 quick ones. The first, going back to Kate Douglas's versatility. When you were recruiting her, did you ever have any doubts or concerns that she'd be able to not just stick with, both the breast and the free, but kind of really thrive in those 2 areas?
No, not really. And honestly, when we were recruiting her, it was more, and she'll tell you this. I sat her down in my office and I told her, I don't remember if it was when we were recruiting her or when she first got here, but she probably remembers better than I do. But I told her I thought she could be the fastest 50 freestyler in the country and the fastest 200 IMer in the country. And obviously being a 200 IMer lends to that versatility. So she was a good breaststroker out of high school. She was good at everything out of high school. So we really didn't know what was going to be her forte or what we were going to focus on. We tried to just keep her versatile, focus on the IM, and see what would develop. And so the breaststroke has just kind of come along. There are freestyle sprinters and breaststrokers we call them unicorns. They're out there, They're pretty rare. They're pretty unique, and she's does it at a level that's nobody's ever done it at before. But there wasn't necessarily a concern that she wouldn't be able to do that, and that wasn't a focus. Like we never. Not until more recently did we start focusing on the freestyle and the breaststroke. She actually told me, I think it was before her junior year, that her goals were to break the NCAA record in the 50 free and the 200 breaststroke. And that was the first time we were like, okay, so we're going to focus on breaststroke this year, because her first 2 years she didn't swim the breaststroke at NCAAs. She swam the 100 free instead, and so that was the year where we started transitioning towards, all right, now we have to develop both. And it's challenging. It's certainly challenging as a coach and as an athlete you only have a certain amount of time you can spend in the pool by NCAA rules. And so it's a challenge to try to, do enough for all those different aspects to be elite at that level. It's worked well for her, but yeah, it was definitely never a concern. And honestly, it was never a goal either. It just kind of evolved to that over the first couple of years that she was here.
If I can just ask a broader question, I'm curious, how much of the specter of the Olympics and trials kind of hang over the program the past year or two? Do you guys have a countdown clock? Was that something you guys discussed in training? Just how much was it kind of pushing everyone?
Not at all. At least not from our perspective. We try not to put too much of an emphasis on it. Not like directly to them every single day. There's no countdown. There's nothing, there's not a whole lot of discussion about it. We talk about it at the beginning of the year. We talk about it right after the NCAA season, and then that's it. I think I mentioned this earlier, but because the last thing I want them to do is to constantly be thinking about the goal of making the Olympics. I think if you overthink it, we have a saying, overthinking kills your happiness, right? So I don't really want them thinking about it. I keep telling them, let me think about it. I'll develop a program and a plan for you. I know the goal. It's my goal for you too. I'm gonna do everything I can to put you in the position, the best possible position, but you don't worry about it. I'm gonna give you this workout. You try as hard as you can. You listen, you make adjustments, and let everything else just kind of happen and fall into place. We use the NCAA season as I've said this a number of times, but we use the NCAA season as a positive distraction towards that ultimate goal of making a U.S. Olympic team or a World Championship team, because the NCAA season lasts a long time. So from September to March, we just focus on NCAAs. We focus on, putting ourselves in the best possible position to contend for a national title. We focus on, individual development. And if you're developing short course, you'll also be developing long course. And certainly we train a lot of long course throughout the course of the year, but I don't want them thinking about it too much. The last thing I would do is put up a countdown that says 10 days till trials, 9 days till trials. They do get that once a week from me. I send out an email every Sunday with the schedule for the week. And typically at the top of that email, it says how many days there are to NCAAs, how many days there are to trials, how many days there are to the Olympics. But I don't necessarily want them focusing on that too much. So we try not to focus on that. I just want them to focus on what they're doing in the water and let me worry about those types of things.
Sandy Houseman, if you have a question.
Yeah, just a couple of quick ones. How many swimmers are there on the team, the U.S. team?
20 women, 26 men.
And how many from UVA?
There's from past and current, there's 5.
And then there's the future. Is Thomas Heilman training with your team, or what's the
Sandy,
relationship?
Sandy, I'm going to interrupt you. We cannot comment on a person that's a prospective student athlete.
Okay.
But we do have one other international swimmer.
Oh yeah. Well, Amy Canny is also going for South Africa.
UVA got a lot of press for its use of technology, employing a mathematician to work with the team. How much of an advantage do you think that gives you and all the other teams now following your lead in that respect?
I think so. I was talking to Herbie at Arizona State at trials, and he's hired a new coach strictly for that. So it's definitely a benefit. It's fortunate that Dr. Ono is a professor here at UVA. He loves swimming. His son swam. He loves our program. He's smarter than probably all of us that are sitting here on this Zoom. And it's been phenomenal, and we've been working with him for the last 4 years, and it just provides some insights that we wouldn't have had otherwise. And I think it's just little things here or there. I don't think it's certainly I don't think it's something monumental, but it's definitely it's a huge advantage.
Every little bit helps. Any concern about the Chinese doping scandal? Is anybody even talking about that?
Not just the media. Again, the way I approach that kind of thing is we can't control any of that, right? So we've just got to focus on ourselves, and whoever we step on the blocks next to, we're gonna do our best and throw our best at them. And you always hope for a clean games. You know that we're going to be clean. Gosh, our athletes are drug tested. It's absurd how often we're drug tested, and absurd in a good way. But yeah, I mean, it's not in our control, so we're not going to focus on it at all. There's been hardly any discussion about it amongst internally.
Thank you.
5 more minutes.
Yeah, no, whatever's fine.
Okay, let me see if I missed anyone. Riley, I might have missed you previously. If you have a question, go right ahead.
Hey, Coach Riley from SwimSwam. Just a quick one. Curious if any other coaches will be able to attend the pre-Olympic training camps, or whether that'll be limited to just the Olympic coaching staff.
Yeah, all personal coaches can come to the camp that we're getting ready to go to down in Cary. I think they're able to be there for the first 5 days or so, and we encourage it. It was in 2016 when Ryan made the U.S. Olympic team. I was his coach, the couple of years prior to that, and I had the ability to go to San Antonio with the Olympic team in 2016 before they went to Rio, and it was probably to that point in my career, it was the coolest, most exciting, most fun experience of my career, and it's probably the moment where I was like, this is what I want to be doing. I want to be coaching at this level. I want to be, at that point I was like, my dream is to be a U.S. Olympic coach. And so we encourage it. It's a great opportunity for those coaches, but also for us. I mean, it's important for us. We want them there. It gives us an opportunity to work with, their athletes and them as coaches, so we can get to know them a little bit more. We can get to know the cues and how they talk to their athletes and what they're looking for and that type of thing. So I think the vast majority of their personal coaches will be there.
Earlier, but Emma Weber, just from a UVA standpoint, it's kind of a surprise to make the team. I'm curious, just kind of your emotions and her emotions were so clear on the screen. I'm just curious what you thought about that moment for her.
Yeah, I think her situation's a little bit different than some of our other athletes that made the team, because I think there were expectations on others and there weren't on her, and I think that's the best place to be in. I think that she had nothing to lose, and the person that has nothing to lose is the most dangerous. Had she gotten 3rd, 4th, or 5th or anything like that, I don't know that she necessarily would have been, all that upset. But we after San Antonio, we knew she swam really well in San Antonio back in April, and she kind of put herself in a position, put herself in the discussions, and she was committed to that all year, though. I mean, at the beginning of the year. The beginning of the school year in September, it was her goal, was to make the Olympic trial final in the 100 breaststroke and just put herself in a position and get a lane, and she did that, and I think that she just took full advantage of it, and I don't know that it was necessarily completely unexpected. We thought she had a good chance, but I think that when you're in that position and you actually do it, then I don't know that it's necessarily a surprise that sets in. It's just like, it's just, excitement and happiness. And I think she was surprised in the moment, but I think she also was confident that she could do it.